Some of you may know that there is a certain large YouTube channel and all that I used to like, but I now despise due to various reasons. Also, before I start this video and all, I just wanted to say that my voice is a little bit crotchety and all because I had a little bit of a sickness yesterday. No, I don't have COVID, but yeah, my nose was all stuffy and my voice was rough and my throat hurt and my body was cold, etc. But now I feel a lot better. Anyways, for years and years before I started watching YouTube videos, I was a fan of Thomas the Tank Engine, watching it on TV whenever it would show up, or rewatching the movies I had related to it, or DVDs and all that kind of stuff. And I was a big fan of cars, collecting diecasts, rewatching the movies, and talking about it with friends of mine, which at the time they were also fans of the franchise, which some of them still are. And I was constantly watching movies like Night at the Museum and getting interested in other movies I wasn't a huge fan of before then, like Monster House, Poseidon, Jurassic Park, and a bunch of others. And eventually I started to become a bit of a fan of these movies and stuff. And eventually I started watching videos on YouTube. And believe it or not, some of the first videos I actually watched on YouTube and all were bodybuilding and fat people videos for some reason. I remember this one video where it was this random old looking white guy sitting in the middle of the road. He looked like a big blob sitting on his side. It looked like a dead corpse that someone just plopped onto the road or something like that, and it just looked hilarious. Plop. Help me! Okay, I'll stop. Anyways, yeah. As you guys can tell, I developed a huge love for certain franchises, and I began watching YouTube videos. But around this time, I wasn't a huge fan of any, like, certain channels and stuff like that. I didn't subscribe to any channels because I didn't know what it meant. I was just simply searching up videos and becoming interested in certain topics. And suddenly, in my recommended, I found videos from a certain channel you guys know as Channel Awesome, who I now portray as Mater with Lightning Bolt. Sorry. Anyways, my first video, I believe, from Nostalgia Critic was the Jurassic Park 3 review, which at the time, I actually fully agreed with him. I liked Jurassic Park 3 before this point and all, only being able to watch it a few times, not really knowing what it was about, but now I do, and at the time, I actually really despised the movie, and I despised Lost World even more thanks to him. At the time, that is. I love those movies now, but still. I began to think that the original Jurassic Park was stupid, and then eventually he made his Jurassic World review, and you guys already know what happened with that video. I began watching other videos from him, like Disney's December, where he bashes the Cars movies. I kind of felt a bit offended and all, even though I still watched his content. Then he made not the Jurassic Park, the Willy Wonka versus Charlie and the Chocolate Factory review, where he compared the two films, and I started to question, are the movies I really like really that good? And then I watched his Thomas and the Magic Railroad episode, feeling a bit offended, just slightly, ever so slightly, even though I haven't rewatched Thomas and the Magic Railroad in years, but I'm still a massive Thomas fan, though. And, of course, his loathsome bashing of the Transformers movies. But yet, at the time and all, I still agreed with a few of his claims and stuff. To this day, I still hate Food Fight and a few other movies he's talked about. And there's also a few movies that he likes that I also like, such as the original Blues Brothers and Monster House, maybe the third Night at the Museum. I don't know about the other two. But yeah, back then, I overall enjoyed his videos despite the negative perception he's given to certain movies I like. But then, in 2015 or so, I started watching other YouTube channels, most of which were devoted to certain topics I liked, such as FNAF, which I was getting around to at that time. And eventually I started getting into other channels, and I started to slowly stop watching Nostalgia Critic as much, even though he was one of my favorite channels at the time. And eventually, somewhere in 2017 or 2018 and all, I began to discover certain channels devoted entirely to things that I like, such as Super Batty 4, Trans Theories, Clayton Fioriti, The Unlucky Tug, Hatbox Bro, Andy Matronic, and plenty more. And around this time in 2018, you guys know what happened. The change of channel controversy occurred, but at the time, I just kind of ignored it, thinking, oh, whatever, just some drama stuff, who cares? And I was still watching certain videos from him and getting excited, like, oh, a review of the Emoji Movie, finally! And feeling a bit disappointed considering how lackluster the review was. And eventually I started to realize he actually shows more hatred and disdain towards the Cars movies than he does towards the Emoji Movie, for God's sakes. Anyways, okay, I need to stop saying anyways, that's kind of annoying. My point is, around this time, I started to realize, I'm not really that big of a Nostalgia Critic fan. And then I discovered Shinobi03's video on Nostalgia Critic's review of Jurassic Park. I started to watch the beginning of it and all thinking, whatever, it's just some salty hater. Who cares? But that mentality did not last, and eventually I rewatched his Jurassic World review. Or not the Jurassic World review, his review of Nostalgia Critic's review of Jurassic World. Ugh, that's a mouthful. And I discovered how much of a fraud Nostalgia Critic, a.k.a. Doug Walker, actually is. And I started to think to myself, you know what? I was right. Nostalgia Critic actually is quite harsh towards my franchises that I love and care about. The Transformers movies actually deserve a lot more, care than they actually get from normies. Maybe Thomas and Friends isn't exactly something stupid that you should just pass off like Paw Patrol or some other crap that's existing in modern day. I also discovered how much he treated Cars like it was dirt, basically. And also I realized how much he was wrong about all the other Jurassic Park movies. And of course, later in 2018 or 2019 or so, Doug released his review of Fallen Kingdom, and I hated it so much with a burning passion, especially when Shinobi made his videos on the topic. And now, I see Nostalgia Critic as a hateable joke now, even though he used to be one of my favorite YouTube channels. And it's kind of a shame because some of his older videos that he actually put effort into still have somewhat merit and all. His review of Food Fight is still funny despite that one Cars 3 joke, which I still can't get over. His commercial videos are still overall fun to watch, even though he kind of bashes some kinds of products that I kind of like, and also just SpaghettiOs and such. But still, I used to be a Nostalgia Critic fan, but now I'm kind of loathing towards him. And I think that other people are starting to realize the problem too. Look at his review of Pink Floyd's The Wall. Man, people did not like that one. I really do think Nostalgia Critic should just simply end and simply retire and do something else with his channel if he wants to keep going. So by this point, if he's just going to get worse and worse, he's just going to drive himself and others into madness. And that's not something I want to see happen to anybody. Anyways, I think that's the end of everything I wanted to say.